Just gonna say it. When a young woman sees a married, stable man, that is attractive. You know, he's figured out some of his bull crap. He's got a wife that's happy and he knows how to be a dad. I mean, like, I'm sorry, but that's gonna make any girl's eggs drop. I mean, like, any young woman would be like, oh, he's marriageable material because he's already married.
Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. I think Robyn Brown just admitted that when she was looking for Kody and she was pursuing him, she saw a stable man that had his stuff figured out, that was financially stable, that was already married, and she was after him because he was married. She stole another woman's husband. She has this convoluted belief because of her cult programming, apparently, that it is attractive to women when a man is married because it proves that they are marriage material. Imagine that the dating pool is so shallow where you grow up that you need to look at married men to decide if you want to become a wife. That's the AUB. Well, there's plenty of young men that are available. They're kicked out, they're pushed out, and they're competition. But she still is holding on to this wild belief. And when that came out of her mouth, that seeing a man that's married makes women's eggs drops, I kind of like recoiled. I was like, what are you talking about? I've never felt that way. I've never looked at a married man and been like, I want to be married to him. Bananas, right? This conversation was during the period when Kody is talking to her about a woman that reaches out, right? And he has the story, and I've already told you about part of it, right? We already went over that last week. But the other part of the conversation is the two of them sort of negotiating about if they're going to add another person to this family. And it's kind of bananas because it would appear that Robyn is by far more interested in this and is actually sending him photographs and telling him that women want to be married. Like she's out there scoping women.
Truth be told, for one split second, I kind of go, For a split second, I think, oh, wouldn't this be great? This is what I always wanted for my life. And how would they fit?
I just thought it was important for you to know because I got thinking about it.
Yeah, remember because I was telling you she told us a place to look to see her picture and online.
Oh, you asked me if I wanted to see her and I said no. And then you said she's cute. And I still said, no, don't show me. Yeah. I think that's just too weird.
So Robyn admits that she finds women online or people approach her and she asks Kody to look at pictures. And obviously she's still entertaining this option. I kind of believe this to be true. McKelty and Tony have said, even though they don't speak to her now, that Robyn does think she wants polygamy to a degree. And that even though in practice she doesn't want it because it's hard in practice to be polygamist, it's the conflict between the practice of it versus the belief system that you have to do it in order to get to the celestial kingdom. I don't know where Robyn stands today, but I do know that in this faith system that it's a woman's responsibility to fulfill what's called the law of Sarah. And so what the law of Sarah means is that every woman, in order to get to the celestial kingdom, must find another woman to bring into the family and then hand that woman to the man because then she has performed the law of Sarah, right? So when she finds another woman for the husband, they get married, and part of the religious ceremony is that the newest wife places the hand of the new wife. So Robyn would place the hand of the new woman into the hand of Kody, transferring herself, the woman, to Kody and sort of disengaging from Kody in that this is your new wife. Every single woman does this. So Mary did this with Janelle. Janelle did this with Christine. Christine does this with Robyn. And Robyn has not fulfilled the law of Sarah. So maybe there's still some convoluted belief system around that she needs to fulfill the law of Sarah. I don't know. But that would be why, if anything, she would be looking for other women. It doesn't mean that I believe that she's doing it seriously or that this is something that she does want, but it is obvious that they are having some theological issues here. And I'm sure part of this is absolutely for a storyline and also for Kody's ego. But it's reminiscent of how Mary used to go constantly searching for other women for Kody to keep him on in good favor for her, because the men are not supposed to go out on the prowl. That's what they say, even though they do. And it's really the women that are supposed to, pursue other women for the men. So they're like the bait. So now Robyn is the bait.
It's just too weird. We're married. I don't want to know that another woman's having a crush on me, even if it makes me feel special. It's sort of ridiculous, right?
It didn't used to be ridiculous.
It wasn't when we were going to be in plural marriage. Man, she's pushing my buttons. It wasn't ridiculous when Robyn and I fell in love, but guess what? It made everything else ridiculous. I mean, Robyn and I falling in love made Christine ridiculous because Christine did not handle that experience well.
I'm not a huge fan about how he's calling out Christine here, but I do want to say that because Christine was the last wife for like 16 years, she held a position where she had Janelle hand the law of Sarah to her. And so she was the newest wife, meaning for 16 years, no one was replacing her. Kody could bounce between the different women, but there was no one to replace Christine. And in this faith, most men don't have more than 3 wives because 3 is the minimum for them to get into the celestial kingdom within the AUB. Now, if they want to get into leadership, they have to take on up to 5 to 7. But for 3, and most men not aspiring to be the prophet or to be in a leadership position, they stop there because it's enough. Like having 3 wives is a lot of work. But for a woman, when they go through the law of Sarah, and when I've talked to women that have done this, it's like their heart is ripped out of their chest because they are now replaced. When a new wife comes in, especially if the woman's been there as the last wife for a very long time, she loses that space. She's saying to Robyn and to Kody, he is your husband now. And she has to be okay with it. She has to be under their faith. It doesn't mean that she is okay with it, but she's indoctrinated and told that she has to be. She has to be, regardless of her feelings. And then the feelings that she has that make it hard for her to recognize, to process that she's now been cast out and she's out to pasture because she stopped having children with him. That's a very difficult burden because from the pulpit, there were leaders in this church that would tell the men that once a woman doesn't have children for you anymore, just take her out to the pasture like an old cow and leave her there. Almost like this like spiritual death for the woman, or like a physical, like a symbolic to the woman. You take old cows out to the pasture and you kill them, right? In this case, you're not going to kill them, but you're going to let that old cow sit out in the pasture by themselves. And so because they know this and they're told this, they know that as soon as they hand that over, especially in this case, he's not going to be the husband that he used to be. And she becomes the new thing. And Robyn has been the new thing now for 16 years herself. And so if she were to do this, I think she would act like Christine. I don't think she could handle it. I don't think she would want to share him. But I also don't think she's happy with him independently.
What was it? Well, was I in love with Christine as much as I was in love with Robyn? Well, that was part of the problem. So anytime you have 2 entities, one is going to outshine the other. Guys can deal with that, but Christine couldn't deal with that. I mean, let's just be really honest. Could I fairly love all of these women? I wanted to, really tried to. I even faked it. But in the end, it just wasn't going to work.
This is like revisionist history for me for Kody, because I know for a fact that if Kody had to be one of 2 men in a woman's life, he would have a problem with it. And for him to say that if you have 2 objects, you're going to like one more, that's not necessarily true. I mean, it's like if you have 3 cats, you might not like one of them more, right? You just like them differently. And in the world of polygamy, it's a weird way because it's contrary to how most people value safety and security. Because when you have a partner, you should be able to rely on that partner and be with that partner, and that person has your back. And that just doesn't exist in polygamy. And favorite wives happen all the time. I don't believe that Kody is saying that he could have tried or that he wanted to try, because he wouldn't have tried. He's always had favorite wives. The difference is that before the show, the women would have just dealt with it and they just would have accepted it because they were in an insular, isolated community and they didn't have exposure to the real world or the really ability to know that there was a different option out there. At least Mary and Christine did not. Janelle did. She came from the secular world. But what Cody's really doing is just saying that, like, it's Christine's fault that it didn't work. And because it didn't work for Christine, it's not going to work for Robyn. And he's really, in many ways, saying that Robyn wouldn't be able to handle it. Robyn wouldn't be able to handle sharing me. It wouldn't work. It would just create ridiculousness. But again, it just like avoids all responsibility on his own. And then as they get further into the conversation, what you start to hear between the two of them is not that they are in love with each other, but rather that they are in a position where they are forced to settle for one another. And settling for one another isn't the idea of romantic love. Because even though Kody is trying to rewrite the history and say that Robyn is his soulmate, that's all a narrative. It's a way for him to explain away why he blew up his family. And if he were to actually look at the truth of the matter, he would have to recognize that he just threw it away for sex. He threw it away for fame. He threw it away for money. He threw it away for greed. It wasn't just Robyn, it was greed. It wasn't just Robyn, it was fame. It wasn't just Robyn, it was ego. Robyn was just the new thing. He threw it away because of Kody, not because of Robyn, because of Kody. Did Robyn play a part? Yes, but he does bear the burden here because he was the patriarch.
To have us sitting here at the table like we were when we would have our little meetings, and for you to be able to say in front of the other wives, hey babe, I got you, I'm gonna make sure your needs are met. Like saying that in front of all of us. Like, I need you all to know individually and collectively that I love each of you and that I have each of your backs. How beautiful would that have been? Don't you think that would have felt very unifying?
I'm not a Robyn fan, but this is about the closest as you're going to get to Robyn ever trying to hold him accountable for what his job was in the world of polygamy. Now, she made a lot of mistakes, but ultimately it comes down to the man. The man is the one that's supposed to be in charge of all the relationships, and the men love to pit the women against each other. It's how the system works. But here, what she is saying to him is that she was promised that in her church, this is how they frame it, is that you're supposed to like establish this community of women all working towards the same goal of getting into heaven and wiping off all of their rough edges, which means jealousy and having feelings, and that collective community is supposed to be the goal. And then when you get old, when the husband doesn't want to be with any of you, you're all out on the grandma ranch doing your thing. I mean, that's how they sell it in their speeches at church. And so she grew up believing this, and the job of the man is supposed to be that they're supposed to honor each one of the women and respect each one of the women and be there for each one of the women. And often they aren't because it's too hard or they don't want to or they don't value the women, period. I mean, if women are viewed as objects, like Kody had already said, if you have two things, one's going to be more shiny. When you value things as objects or women or people as objects, you don't say things like, I'm going to have all of your backs. I'm going to love all of you collectively. I'm going to do everything for you collectively. And I don't know that Robyn would have been okay with him doing things fairly. Quite honestly, I think she wanted more than everyone else. I think she needed more than everyone else. But this is Robyn telling Kody that his failure to be united and his failure to honor those commitments to those other women was his failure, and that her dream eroded because of his failure. It's not blaming the other women. It's not blaming the other dynamics. It's putting the square blame on him. Like, you failed here. And he knows that she's blaming him, and she knows that he's blaming, and she knows that she's blaming him. And he's going to get defensive, and then she's going to walk it back, which is the eggshells that Christine says Robyn lives under.
And acknowledge that in front of each other, acknowledge that it doesn't matter anymore, I guess.
The bigger question for me is, you want me to just show you these letters when they show up and let it go?
Did you just track what I just said?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? You just went back to the letters.
It's just all it is a confirmation of my own failures, Robyn. I was like, yeah, it would have been nice to have had a skill set to have managed those relationships better.
I frankly don't see Kody treat her any differently than anyone else now that she's the only wife. In fact, I see Kody being more critical of her when he's asked questions about her on his one-on-ones because he has literally no one else to talk about but her. He ignores her when she brings things up like this. She has to circle back and tell him, like, did you just hear what I said? And then he's like, yeah, I'm aware that I'm a failure and I just didn't have the skill sets like a robot, trying to like ignore the fact that it was his choice to string these women along. I think the more complicated question here and the more elephant in the room here is that Kody made a choice to ignore all these women. He ignored them before the show, he ignored them after the show, and he assumed that they would stay complacent and complicit in this because he believed he had control over them. And him saying, I didn't manage those relationships because I didn't have the skill set is a cop out. The management angle would have been to have just left polygamy and said, I'm in love with Robyn and I'm leaving. But that's not what Kody wanted. Kody didn't want them to leave. He might have wanted them to leave by pushing them all away, but the guys in this culture, they're fine with the women just being ignored and left in a house 300 miles away. They're totally fine with that. If they never saw the wife like less than 3 times a year, they'll still call him a wife though. I mean, that's just how it works. She's trying to call him out and Cody's just like, well, I just didn't have the skill set. She clearly has an expectation that he should have been better. And Kody gets annoyed with her bringing this up. And then she has to like apologize to him for saying this to him and like kiss his butt.
Point out your failures. That's not what I'm trying to do, honey.
I failed,
Kody.
and I've spent 3 years being angry about it.
I'm not trying to say you failed. Matter anymore.
Maybe it's a good lesson right now. I mean, those relationships are still hostile. It's smart for me to start figuring out a way to diffuse the hostility now.
For the sake of your kids.
It's pretty wild to me because when Kody is having these conversations with Robyn and she's having to walk back and say it's not your fault, and then in her talking head she says, I know it was all of our faults. No. Well, yes and no, but they're all playing a role in the fault of what's happening on the show. But no, I mean, he's the guy and this was the cult and there's just so many problems with this. But he then tries to circle back to what happened with Christine, and he focuses so much on his exit and the end with Christine. Like, I'm noticing as he is talking about the demise of this family, the only person that he's so focused on is Christine, which is to me this question. Was she the only relationship that he was actually trying to work on other than Robyn? The Mary relationship was dead. Clearly, Janelle didn't really care, or else he would be focusing more on Janelle. The only thing I think he cared about with Janelle was the money, right? The money. I have to give props to the editors and the producers here because he's talking about the demise of his family and he's talking about Christine and the failures he made, and he doesn't say Janelle's name. And then they show a photograph of Janelle and Kody, like reminding viewers that it wasn't just Christine that he abandoned, but it was also Janelle, because he doesn't think of Janelle in that way. I don't know why, but he just doesn't think of her in that way. And so the producers are trolling him and saying, yeah, what about Janelle though? Good job on the producers. And then he tells Robyn that he's just making the best of this situation, which proves to me that they're not all rosy.
Now I'm looking at this. Robyn and I are talking about plural marriage, another wife hypothetically coming in, and I'm going, no, because how you do anything is how you do everything, and we'll screw that one up too. Just trying to make the best of it here with you in our happy little kingdom.
Yeah.
And you're perfectly fine being out of the polygamy thing forever.
I'm so scared of it now, I don't even know how I would consider it.
Well, that's not an answer.
That's the only answer I got. I'm perfectly fine with you.
Listen, I have been married since 2010, since August of 2010, 15 years. And if my husband told me that he was just trying to make the best of the situation that he was in with me, I would feel like, why are you here then? Right? If you're trying to make the best of a situation, it feels like you're settling for something that you don't want. You've resigned yourself to this is what it is. That doesn't sound like true love. And if I said to him, I'm perfectly fine with you, I think he would be a little bit hurt. I mean, for real, I'm not just perfectly fine with my husband. That's who I want. I'm not just happy in a situation. It's what I want. It's not a situation. It's our life. And I don't have to tolerate being with him because I want to be with him. I'm not hearing them say things like to each other's faces how in love they are. Kody tries to do it, Robyn rebuffs him. Kody tries to do things that are sweet for her, and she says she's shy and she's not interested. It seems to me like they're settling into a marriage that neither one of them wants. And now Cody's in damage control to prove to everyone that this is why he blew up his whole family. And all I see are two people that are resigned to staying in an enduring relationship and trying to prove to themselves that this was worth it. And I just don't see that it was, because I don't like Robyn, by the way, but she deserves better. Uh, it, I think Robyn outside of polygamy might be a better person. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. She deserves better than to be able to have to walk back criticism of her husband and not be afraid. I mean, I understand that men have fragile egos and sometimes it can be hard to confront them. I get it. It happens to the best of us. But she should feel comfortable to say her truth without having to feel like she has to apologize to him. And Kody telling her, I'm just making the best of a situation, isn't very reassuring. So this is not the last conversation they're going to have about this. And I think it's just going to continue. But their marriage is not love, it's tolerance. And that's not love to me. So what are your thoughts? Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.